activity is done secretly. People in psychology will never again perform an operation on a human and for now can only prescribe drugs. Hundreds of thousands of nonviolent people are routinely tied to hospital beds with 4-point restraints and left for hours with no choice but to urinate and defecate on themselves. Straitjackets, electroshock therapy, and lobotomies are being used on nonviolent people without consent and even against clear objection. Finally, involuntary drugging and coercing people to take meds was witnessed. People that break a violent law should go to a prison, not to a hospital. There will be a time when people go through the psychiatric hospitals of the planet, free the nonviolent that want to be free, and transfer the violent people to prisons. All arrests and fines for drug use, owning drugs, buying, trading, and selling drugs must stop. Guns cause far more damage than drugs and are legal. Putting objects into your own body, no matter how dangerous to yourself, that do not physically harm any other person must never be called a crime. We should not arrest people for using drugs because we should not arrest people for overeating, clearly a risky and unhealthy activity. The arrest of people that use drugs is a war on nonviolent intellectual people by brutal violent people. People are shocked and outraged at learning that a person uses drugs, but clearly using drugs is not as bad as first-strike violence. We should do away with required prescription from humans with at least one PhD degree. Think of the hypocrisy of people that use alcohol or tobacco voting to lock other people in jail that use drugs. During prohibition of alcohol, people that sold alcohol were labeled criminals. Now companies that sell beer, alcohol, guns, and tobacco are viewed as regular legal companies. This is similar to the way marijuana, cocaine, and heroin companies will be viewed in the future. Many people think that drugs are a bad influence on people, but so are guns, alcohol, tobacco, and religion. We would love people to stay away from religion, but not by locking them down. Locking up nonviolent kids for years simply for owning a six-pack of beer and a pack of cigarettes is barbaric. Most of you do not get to see most of the atrocities involving arrests and storage of nonviolent people in prisons. People are being brutalized. Their families are being broken up. Their property sold. The billion-dollar sum to clothe, house, and feed these nonviolent, self-sufficient people is being paid for with important tax money. For many people caught using drugs, not alcohol or tobacco, their property is sold off and the money goes to the people and the government police. All this when guns are legal and people are using guns, not drugs, to kill more and more nonviolent humans. Show more compassion and empathy for those people in prison for drugs that have never been violent or caused damage to any other person. Violent people should be sentenced for more time than nonviolent people in the prisons, but this is not what is happening. Frank Fiorini Sturgis, one of the people caught in the Watergate, killed the President of the USA, John F. Kennedy, from the front in 1963. This news is now official. After some 40 years of secrecy and lies, the truth has been revealed. Frank Fiorini of Florida, a self-claimed soldier of fortune with ties to E. Howard Hunt, the U.S. CIA, and Richard Nixon, shot and killed John Kennedy from behind a picket fence in Dealey Plaza, Dallas, Texas. More news just in. Lee Oswald probably did also shoot from the school book depository and did kill Tippit. When looking back, perhaps this news seems obvious. This is why Robert Kennedy used the word effort. Cronkite used the word official. Cyril Wecht, fragmented fracture. The two F's together were for Frank Fiorini. That Nixon may have been involved in the killing of JFK is what the Watergate hearings and Nixon resignation was all about. Sam Ervin used the words for FIA and similar double F's to echo that Nixon, together with people in the CIA and the Good Old Boys Network, were involved with the killing of JFK. Fiorini died in 1992 and never spent one day in jail for killing JFK. The majority of the public never even knew that he was the person that killed JFK 40 years before now. The number of people that covered up and even to this day cover up what really happened to JFK is disgustingly large, including free full pardon Gerald Ford, Arlen Specter, Louis Alvarez, and thousands of other brutal white people. The history of science is not shown and told to the public. Next to evolution, this is probably the most important story that people need to hear. There is a Ten Commandments movie for the large screen, but no movie called Science is an indication of how religious the majority of humans on Earth are. Most of the events in the story of Moses are clearly not true, like Moses parting the Red Sea, like the stories of Jesus turning one loaf of bread into many, or people seeing Jesus after death. These are clearly false. Homo erectus entered Europe from Africa. Sapiens made ships of wood, grew plants, casted metal, invented paper, engines, satellites, and walking robots, to only name a few. These stories inspire people to contribute to science, and that can only help. We still have the problems of viruses, bacteria, aging, going to other stars, plenty of problems that need to be examined. The history of Earth should also be told. That a large number of people actually do not think that evolution is true is shocking to the entire news team here. Clearly, evolution is a fact. First DNA copied and made the first cell, bacteria. This cell was surrounded by a second cell wall, making objects like amoebas. Then the first multicellular living objects grew, like worms and jellyfish, 1 billion years before now. Fish evolved into amphibians, amphibians to reptiles, birds and mammals evolved, and then finally the first primates. This is clear and should be shown in a movie, but so far no movie called Evolution has been made. For all the money in the universities and the national science foundations, I am shocked that no video explaining the story of evolution has ever been made for the public. People need to support complete and total democracy for the entire planet Earth and all future stars that life grows to. We need to democratize the governments of Earth and start with democratic reforms. We need to be voting on all existing state, national, and planetary laws to see if they get popular support. We need to vote for all United Nations people and decisions. We need to be voting on the budget for people in the military, FBI, KGB, police, and every person employed in every government all over the planet. All court decisions should be voted on by any and all people by counting votes on government computers through the Internet. We must vote down the Electoral College. U.S. presidents should be chosen by popular vote only. I want to record some of my votes now. I vote no on all drug laws, no on all prostitution and solicitation laws, no on Title 17 and 35 trademark, copyright, and patent, no on Chapter 47 fraud and false statements, no on Chapter 50 gambling, no on Chapter 63 mail fraud, no on Chapter 71 obscenity, no on Chapter 79 perjury, no on Chapter 81 piracy and privateering. These are my votes. Your votes may differ. We need complete freedom of all information with no exceptions. We need an end to trademarks, copyrights, patents, and privacy. There is no way of stopping particles of light from moving through the universe, and nobody should be locked in a jail for simply owning images no matter what they contain. Trademark will probably be the first to fall. Copyright law is stopping the spread of information and truth on planet Earth. Getting permission to use a photo or text from a person is too labor-intensive and difficult. Like DNA, copying is human nature. Copying is how we learn. Any person that has ever done a report recognizes that you have to find a book or video as a source for data. Learning the alphabet or to read is to learn to copy and reproduce what you see. Patents are slowing science and technological progress on Earth, and usually those people that an idea is copied from never get a dollar. Privacy will probably be the last of the laws to violate free info to fall. I am angered when looking at internet web pages and seeing a statement at the bottom of the main page that explains how they obey all privacy laws, because the reality is that millions of these people watch people in their houses and even hear and see their thoughts. We all here felt more than a little bit nauseous, asking why this bunch of hypocrite humans do not defend free information and question privacy laws. After all, they are clearly violating the privacy of millions of people. Why would they not work to change the privacy laws or question the idea of privacy? Privacy is equivalent to secrecy. Freedom of all medical information is perhaps the only way of stopping or even slowing the spread of transmittable diseases. While we live in this secrecy and ignorance, we can be sure that more people will get HIV and herpes, knowing that they never would have if they had access to a planetary health database. In all courtrooms, there should be at least one camera and microphone capturing images and sounds that are made available to the public. Popular support for privacy is stopping people from seeing the interesting images captured over the years, images that show what happened to Marilyn Monroe, Jimi Hendrix, JFK, MLK, and millions of other interesting, smart, important people. The popularity of the myth of privacy is allowing violence to continue. Simple cameras on main streets available to the public would help to solve 6 of 10 violent assaults and homicides, but the popularity of privacy is allowing these violent people to go unseen and free. The Nicole Simpson and Jam Master Jay killings are clear examples of killings that would now be solved because of simple cameras on main streets. Make stopping violence the number one priority of people on Earth. Change the focus of locking people in jail for nonviolent offenses like drugs and prostitution, and to start locking more people in jail for violent offenses. Violence is worse than drug use, worse than prostitution, worse than stealing, worse than lying, worse than molestation, worse than treason, worse than almost every activity, but yet people are doing nothing in the effort to actively stop violence. Why is violence not viewed as the worst evil on planet